There is a certain kind of person who has everything the world told them to want. A good job. A loving relationship. A home that feels safe. People who care about them. And yet, when they sit alone in the quiet, a strange hollow feeling spreads across their chest like a fog they cannot explain. They smile at dinner. They laugh at the right moments. They scroll through their own life like it belongs to someone else and wonder why none of it actually lands inside them. The achievements feel paper-thin. The joy never quite fills the whole room. It is like living behind glass. But if you know someone like this, or if you are someone like this, please stay with this video. Because that emptiness is not ingratitude. It is not weakness. And it is not some permanent flaw carved into your soul. It is a signal from a deeply misunderstood part of the human mind. Today we are going to decode the psychology of feeling empty even when life looks perfect. Why this happens at a neurological level. How it shows up in daily life in ways most people never name. And most importantly, what can actually bring genuine feeling back into a life that has gone numb. So why does this happen? Why would someone surrounded by good things still feel hollow inside? The answer lives in two different origins, two different psychological roads that lead to the exact same destination. And both of them make complete sense once you understand the science behind them. The first group are people who were simply born with what researchers call sensory processing sensitivity, or SPS. Studies by psychologist Dr. Elaine Aron show that roughly 15 to 20% of the human population has a nervous system that processes the world at a fundamentally deeper level. These are highly sensitive persons, or HSPs. Their brain does not skim the surface. It dives. The second group built this emptiness as a survival response. Imagine a child who grew up in a home where emotions were not safe to feel. Crying was weakness. Excitement was punished. Vulnerability was met with silence or shame. So that child did the only logical thing. They learned to disconnect from their own inner world to stay protected. In both cases, the brain structure most responsible is the default mode network, or DMN. This is the brain's internal narration system. The part that runs quietly when you are not focused on a task. It generates self-reflection, emotional meaning, and the felt sense of being alive. When the DMN becomes dysregulated, life can feel like watching a film instead of living one. For the HSP, the DMN is constantly overstimulated, scanning too much, processing too deeply, until the mind learns to suppress its own signals just to stay functional. For the childhood pain survivor, emotional numbness was the armor that protected them. And armor, worn long enough, becomes skin. So when this pattern enters adult life, it does not announce itself loudly. It moves quietly. It looks like someone who has achieved much and feels little. Someone who cannot explain the grief behind their grateful eyes. Someone whose life makes sense to everyone around them except to themselves. The first sign is that they achieve things without actually receiving them. They work hard toward a goal, reach it, and in the moment of arrival, there is almost nothing there. A flat landing. Like expecting music and hearing only silence. Picture someone who has just been promoted after 2 years of relentless effort. Their colleagues celebrate. Their family is proud. But on the drive home, they sit at a red light and think, is this it? They feel more alone in that moment than they did before the promotion was announced. This happens because of a disruption in the brain's reward circuitry, specifically in dopamine signaling. Dopamine is not actually the pleasure chemical. It is the anticipation chemical. It drives pursuit. But if the prefrontal cortex has learned to suppress emotional responses as a protective mechanism, the arrival of a reward feels like chasing a door that disappears the moment you touch the handle. The emotional consequence is a quiet kind of grief that has no name. They cannot tell anyone because from the outside, they just got what they wanted. So they carry the confusion alone, wondering if something is fundamentally broken inside them, when in truth their brain is simply misfiring at the finish line. And this pattern does not stay in the career. It bleeds into every area of life, into relationships, into rest, into moments that were supposed to feel like more. The second sign is the one no one talks about. The second sign is that they cannot fully receive love. Not because they do not want it, but because love, when it arrives, feels like it is landing on the wrong address. Compliments bounce off. Affection feels almost uncomfortable. They hold warmth at arm's length even from people who genuinely offer it. Imagine a partner who says, "I am so proud of you. I love who you are." And instead of softening, the person inside tightens. They say thank you. They smile. But somewhere underneath, a small voice whispers, "They do not really know me." Or, "This will not last." Or simply, "I do not deserve this yet." The science here involves the insular cortex, the brain region responsible for interoception, our ability to feel our own internal states. When this region is suppressed, a person loses access to the felt sense of being loved. They can understand love intellectually, like reading words in a language they once studied, but they cannot feel its warmth in the body where it is supposed to live. The emotional consequence is a particular kind of loneliness. Not the loneliness of being alone, but the loneliness of being surrounded by love and still feeling untouched by it. Like standing in the rain with an invisible umbrella you forgot you were holding. This invisibility extends inward too. Because the third sign is one that lives entirely beneath the surface, in the gap between what they feel and what they can name. The third sign is that they live with a constant, low-grade sense of wrongness that they cannot explain. Not sadness exactly. Not anxiety exactly. Just an ambient unease, like a radio playing one note just slightly off-key in the background of every ordinary Tuesday. They sit with friends who are laughing and feel suddenly, mysteriously apart. They watch a sunset that should move them and notice they are mostly thinking about what comes next. They go to sleep in a life that looks correct and wake up wondering why they feel like they are still searching for something. Psychologists call this alexithymia, a reduced ability to identify and describe one's own emotional states. It is closely linked to dysregulation in the default mode network. When the DMN cannot generate clear internal emotional signals, the person experiences a kind of affective fog. They feel that something is off, but the signal is too faint to decode. The emotional consequence is exhausting confusion. Because you cannot solve a feeling you cannot name. And so they spend enormous energy trying to outperform the emptiness, achieving more, doing more, filling more, hoping the right external event will finally trigger the feeling they have been waiting for. But the more they chase external solutions, the deeper the fourth sign grows. And the fourth sign is perhaps the most misunderstood of all. The fourth sign is that they are addicted to business without ever feeling truly alive in it. Their calendar is full. Their mind is always running. They move from task to task like someone walking quickly through a museum, seeing everything, absorbing nothing. Stillness feels like a threat. Watch them on a quiet evening with nothing required of them. No deadline. No project. Just open time. They will find something to do within minutes. Check their phone. Start reorganizing something. Begin planning next week. Anything to avoid sitting in the room with the silence that has their name on it. This is the amygdala at work. For people with dysregulated nervous systems, stillness activates threat detection. The brain associates quiet with danger, because in earlier chapters of life, quiet was often when bad things happened. Hypervigilance becomes the default mode. The nervous system cannot distinguish between genuine rest and an ambush. The emotional consequence is a life lived at full speed that somehow feels completely motionless inside. They are busy and empty at the same time. Productive and untouched. Moving fast through a world that never quite becomes real beneath their feet. And because they never slow down enough to feel, the fifth sign quietly builds its walls around them. The fifth sign is that they feel most like themselves only in moments of intensity. Crisis, deadline, deep conversation at 2 a.m., an unexpected emotional rupture. In those moments, something switches on. They feel awake, present, real. And then the intensity fades, and they go numb again. Think of a person who spends a perfectly comfortable evening feeling disconnected. Then they receive difficult news. And suddenly they feel sharp, clear, fully here. They organize, they respond, they feel strangely at home inside the chaos. Later they feel guilty for noticing they felt more alive in the emergency than in the peace. Neuroscience explains this through cortisol and norepinephrine, the stress hormones that generate high arousal states. For a nervous system habituated to numbness, These chemicals essentially break through the fog. Intensity becomes the only reliable signal that cuts through the static of the dampened emotional system. The brain chases what actually makes it feel. The emotional consequence is profound. They begin to unconsciously create intensity. Drama, crisis, impossible goals, difficult relationships. Not because they want suffering, but because suffering, for them, is proof of being alive. It is the one signal strong enough to reach them through the walls their nervous system built. They are not broken. They are not dramatic. Their brain learned to survive in a world that required them to turn their feeling down. And now they do not know how to turn it back up. And here is what most people never stop to realize. These people are not ungrateful. They are not cold. They are not broken or selfish or impossible to love. They are human beings whose nervous systems learned to protect them so well that they became protected from their own joy. And that is not a character flaw. That is a wound wearing the mask of strength. So what can they do? They cannot simply decide to feel more. They cannot willpower their way into presence. The emptiness did not arrive by choice. And it will not leave by force. What is required is something slower, gentler, and far more counterintuitive than anything the achievement-oriented mind will initially trust. There are 3 freeing principles. The first is this: stop treating feelings as information to be managed and start treating them as sensations to be noticed. Not analyzed. Not solved. Simply noticed. The brain can only begin rewiring when the self stops fighting what it finds inside. In practice, this means sitting with a feeling for 30 seconds longer than feels comfortable. Not narrating it. Not judging it. Just locating it in the body. Is it in the chest? The throat? The stomach? A person who begins this practice, even for 2 minutes a day, begins slowly reactivating the insular cortex, rebuilding the bridge to their own inner life. The second principle is to intentionally seek micro-moments of genuine pleasure rather than macro-achievements of performance. Not the promotion. The morning coffee held in both hands. Not the perfect vacation. The 20 seconds of sunlight on the face before getting into the car. The nervous system learns safety and aliveness in small, repeated moments, not in grand gestures. The third principle is to let connection be imperfect. To stop waiting to feel worthy of the love being offered and instead simply allow the other person to be there. To say, I am not fully here yet, but I am trying to arrive. Authentic imperfect presence builds the nervous system's trust in warmth far more powerfully than performed closeness ever will. When they practice this, something slow and real begins to happen. The hollowness does not vanish overnight, but it begins to soften at the edges. They start catching small moments of genuine feeling. A laugh that actually travels through the whole body. A quiet evening that does not feel like a threat. Little by little, the nervous system stops performing aliveness and begins returning to it. Like a room where someone finally opens a window after years of sealed silence and lets the ordinary air breathe again. These are people who carry the world inside them more deeply than most. Who feel the weight of beauty and loss and time in ways others move past without noticing. Who built extraordinary outer lives partly to find a place to put all the intensity their inner life had nowhere else to go. They deserve to feel what they have built. They deserve to be inside their own life, not watching it from behind the glass. If this video felt like it was speaking directly to you, leave a comment below and tell us which sign resonated most. Was it the achievement that felt flat when it arrived? The love you could understand but not quite feel? The constant busyness that never brought rest? Your words down there matter more than you know. If this video helped you feel even slightly less alone in this, please press like and share it with someone who might need to hear it today. Thank you so much for watching. And if you are new here, please subscribe. Because this channel exists for exactly these conversations, the ones that go where most people are afraid to look.